Hello and welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm Rabyd, a former pastor turned atheist, now compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Feel free to like or dislike the video as you see fit, so feel free to hit those buttons. Feel free to comment below. And I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel and hit your notification bell for more content as it is released. You're also free to share my videos as much as you like, because the purpose of this channel is educational in regards to atheist and deconversion issues and any issues related to those issues. A hearty shout out to the Rabyd Nation. Join the nation by hitting that subscribe button, and if you want to be a paying citizen of the nation, hit that join button and your options will be presented. Today is Deconstruction Friday, so I wanted to talk a little bit today about one of the things that kind of grips people after they've deconverted, because the indoctrination process puts a lot of fear into you. There's definitely a reinforcing of the idea of you don't want to go away because there's consequences for leaving the religion. Now, there are real, genuine consequences for deconverting and becoming an atheist or becoming a secularist, maybe an agnostic, deist kind of person, although deists often don't receive as much ire as, say, becoming an atheist. But the issue here is that when we're not talking about the social context of losing your community or being shunned or being excommunicated in some cases, in other ways you begin to, face certain consequences. There's family dynamics that change, things like that. But there are other fears that are placed inside of you because of deconversion. Now I want to reiterate, I'm just sharing some of my experiences, some of the fears that I've overcome. If you're really struggling with a fear, you're a person who's deconverted, and you're really struggling with a fear that's still there even though you're an atheist or whatever, counseling is the best way to go. Just get a hold of Recovering from Religion, and I'm sure they can hook you up with somebody that'll give you a helping hand. I can't recommend good therapy enough. It's well worth the money. But in this case, let's do 7 fears that you can just brush off after becoming an atheist. Number 1, you have no more fears of holy books. Nothing that they say or anything like that. There's no such thing as the sacred or holy books or anything. You can now look at your Bible, your Quran, or everything else as a human-made work, because that's what it is, okay? And the people who created those things were fallible human beings who probably created them either because they had some mystical experience, which is easily explained psychologically these days, or they were genuinely trying to create something that would legitimately control others. You'll see a lot of the holy books where it's more of a combination of the state and religion trying to keep the masses in line, so to speak. And a lot of holy books reinforce the idea of authority and doing all that. You don't have to listen to any of that anymore. I know that can be very difficult. For me, it's still a little difficult because I know all these Bible verses, but they don't have the same punctuated meaning for me anymore because I got away from the process of, letting those things guide my thoughts. I now evaluate every verse of Scripture with a very critical mind as to whether or not that's true or not. Occasionally the Bible will say something that is true or is a good philosophy. Do unto others what you would have them do unto you is literally in almost every religion and in almost every philosophy I can think of, because it's a universal human precept. But at the same time, there's a lot of other things that you just don't have to listen to in those holy books. That's gone. Number 2. You can lose the fear of feeling like you're being watched 24/7. You no longer have this cosmic big brother that wants to watch you every moment, every day, where you really genuinely don't have any privacy. Genuinely, folks, with no gods or goddesses watching us, you genuinely can have indeed private moments that are yours and yours alone, or yours and the person you love's alone, and you don't have to worry about some voyeuristic God that's always watching every intimate moment that you're doing. You can lose that fear. You can lose that paranoia that God is always watching and he's going to get you if you get out of line. That's just not there. It's gone. Okay, it's not a reality. This is I've actually heard some deconverted people that it takes a while for them to get over this idea because it was so ingrained in them. For me, it's been really like, nobody's watching. But every once in a while, you have that feeling like somebody's watching, and I think that that's really more indoctrination than actual reality. Now, we do live in an age where everything can be photographed, videotaped, or whatever. You have to, watch yourself with all of that. But the fact is, if you're in the privacy of your own home and there's no video cameras on, you're literally, your thoughts, your actions, whatever you're doing are literally your own and nobody else's business. And not even an imaginary friend. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that as much more. And, you can definitely do some things that you would like to do. As long as you're not harming others, it doesn't really matter. And there is nobody watching you to report on you of what the things that you did. I almost think that this idea that was created in religion was more of a thing that parents wanted so that when their kids were away from them, they couldn't watch them. They still thought, well, God is still watching you. That's just not true. Learn to grow up and learn to be an adult. And, you don't have to be watched to do good things. You don't have to be doing it because you're out of fear that God is going to see that and, condemn you for it. Number 3, being condemned for your thoughts. Good news, thought crime doesn't exist anymore. The idea that Jesus gave us, with if you lust after a woman, or if you're angry in your heart, or if you covet your neighbor's stuff or whatever, these thought crimes, they don't really exist. Those are just human desires. Sometimes it's not wise to act on some of those desires, but all you need is a little bit of human wisdom for your own benefit and the sake of others. But you don't need to worry about somebody recording every thought that you have in some sort of book. The thought crime police are over. They're out. And sometimes this is, it's a real struggle to deconvert, because when you're deconstructing this idea, nobody's listening to my thoughts and holding me accountable for thought crime, but it's very important to, make sure our thoughts, don't get out of hand so that they become actions that are detrimental to others or ourselves. It becomes more of a taking of responsibility for your own thoughts and watching your own thoughts, not having somebody else watch them for you or condemn you for them. The thought police are gone. There is no thought police. Live your life, okay? Number 4, being condemned as a sinner. I mean, all your actions, your thoughts, let's take the 2 and 3 and put them together here. There's no such thing as sin. Okay, it was one of the revelations that led me to deconverting from Christianity, that this idea that you have disobeyed the commandments of God just isn't there. Okay, it's not there anymore. There's, every time I talk about the unreality of sin, people go, what about, people doing murder? And that's not sin. The Bible is very clear about sin. Sin is lawlessness. In particular, it's lawlessness against God's commands. But if God doesn't exist, then he didn't give any commands. And so a violation of those commands, whatever they may be, are only a violation of other human beings' commands that they said in the name of God. And that doesn't fly. So sin doesn't exist. If there's no God, there is no sin. And so you don't have to worry about all that some tally book is laying up on you. You can brush that off. Okay, you don't have to worry about somebody keeping track of all your missteps so they can hold it against you later on a judgment day. That just simply does not exist. You can just kind of brush that off. Number 5, being afraid to think for yourself. So much of faith is wrapped up in emotion. It's all wrapped up in this. How does this make you feel? Do you feel the presence of God? Do you, have this intuition, which is feelings making a launch pad jump, okay, and not really getting anywhere. But the idea is, just believe, don't think about it, okay, is really inherent into religion. You don't have to be afraid to think for yourself anymore. You don't have to be afraid to think in general. Okay, rationality and thinking and learning to look at your problems reasonably and getting counsel from other fellow human beings walking this planet is a far better way to go than just shoving off in faith. Okay, because some of the things that God tells you to do in faith in the Bible, quote unquote, that he tells you, are actually bad idea. Jesus' advice to think, don't thought for tomorrow, that's really, really lousy advice. It really is. It's bad. Okay, and so my point to all of you, is don't have to worry about being reasonable or rational or thinking for yourself. You don't have to let somebody else think for you or tell you what to think. You can start thinking for yourself, and you don't have to be afraid to think. Okay? Number 6, there's nothing sacred about the clergy. Quit being afraid to take on their ideas. Okay, and just because somebody puts a reverend in front of the name doesn't mean that they're contributing to anything or have contributed to anything to society. As a former pastor, I'm telling you now that once I got out, I realized how I'd made my living for 20 years, okay, which is basically living in a land of make-believe, using religion to reinforce other people's land of make-believe. There's nothing good about that, especially when the end result is you get money and some sort of prestige and pat on the back. I've received a lot of awards and accolades over the years for this kind of stuff, but in the end, it just isn't really anything that I did. I didn't really do anything, okay? And I'm telling you right now that every priest, every cleric, every pastor, every reverend, they have really done nothing, okay? Now, maybe they are good counselors. Maybe they have programs that give to the poor. But you can do all that without being clergy, okay? And it doesn't really notch you any belts for religion. But being a promoter of religion and a person who lives off the gullibility of others, you don't have to show clergy people respect simply because they're clergy people. Look at their actions, okay? You can disrespect them. You can have if they're disrespectful, disrespect them. You don't have to put up with that. Okay, there's nothing holy or sacred about these men and women. They're just people, and they're playing a game of make-believe, and they want you to come along, apparently. You don't have to respect that. You don't have to fear them. You don't have to just brush them off. Just brush them off, okay? Number 7, you don't have to be afraid of God. He doesn't exist, at least as far as I can tell. Okay, no evidence has been convincing to me that he exists, and so why should I be afraid of something that's non-existent? You don't have to be, I know a lot of us lived in terror of our imaginary friend. Oh, but he loves us. Oh, but he's going to throw us into hell if we disobey him or give up on the faith. Or, oh, God is so merciful. And, oh, no, he's not, because his standard of justice in the Bible is a little bit might makes right. You don't have to fear that guy anymore. He's a very unpleasant character, the most unpleasant character in all of fiction, Dan Barker says. And that's just exactly what he is, a character in fiction. You don't have to be afraid of characters in fiction. You don't have to be afraid of any fictional character, from Voldemort to the Eye of Sauron to whatever it is, whatever evil, the Nazgul. You don't have to be afraid of these people, and you certainly don't have to be afraid of God, because he's an imaginary character too, particularly the one in the monotheistic religions. Yeah, you can discard that. You don't need to be afraid of him anymore. He's imaginary. I've had a lot of imaginary friends when I was a child. I put them away. Okay, and I got rid of them. Okay, well, now I've gotten rid of another one that hung on forever and ever. Okay, and I'm not afraid of any of them. Okay, number 8, a bonus one for you. And this one is, I suppose, slightly controversial, but one of the things I personally learned is you don't have to be afraid of dying. The afterlife is what scares a lot of people. Heaven, hell, the whole thing. This bonus one is here for those of you that struggle with that. I know a lot of people still struggle with the afterlife question. And even after they deconverted, I know, I think Apologia once said that was something that really bothered him even after he had given up on faith in Christianity. The fear of hell still stuck around because the indoctrination is so strong. But one of the things that you can start working on is that's not there. And guess what? Before you were alive, you were never inconvenienced by your non-existence. Guess what? After you're dead, you won't be inconvenienced by your non-existence again. Okay, it's nothing to be afraid of. It's going to happen, hopefully in some way that's not painful or unpleasant for you, but probably most likely if you live a long time, that's what will happen. And maybe the pain and other things can be avoided, and that's something to be afraid of, per se. But the death itself, once it's over, you won't have any thoughts about it. You won't have any fears about it. You won't have anything about it. So why do you have fears now? I know this is something to work on. It's something, though, that I've grasped. To me, the whole idea of just accepting my end fate, that I will be dead someday, has been actually quite liberating. It's allowed me to cherish every moment and live in a way that is more productive for myself. All right, those are 7 ways, 7 fears that you can brush off after becoming an atheist, with one bonus. So I hope that's been helpful. I know a lot of people still struggle with a lot of these fears. If you're deconverted and you were deep in it, this stuff is ingrained in your brain, okay? And it takes a while to retrain your brain to think differently. But these are some of the starting points where you can start to begin to work on these ideas and begin to get rid of them. Trust me, it'll help you a lot, and it'll keep you moving forward. Deconstruct these ideas whenever they come up. Every once in a while, I'll realize that I do things because a verse of scripture is guiding me, or I'm afraid of this person, or I'm worried about whether somebody's watching me or monitoring my thoughts. And it's like, well, no, nobody's monitoring my thoughts, nobody's watching me, so maybe I just need to get over this. And it's something that I think can be a real strength later on. I've learned to draw a lot of strength from my non-belief, in the sense that now I can focus on things that are real and focus on reality while not embracing any of these fears. Once again, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate every single like, share, and subscribe. Do what you do. Everything helps me to grow, and I'm trying to grow as big as I can and get as large an audience as I can and hold on to it for as long as I can. So thank you very much for doing that. And as always, remember to live your best life. Don't submit to the fears of religion or faith, but instead, use your opportunities, your money, your time to build up yourself and build up the people that you love, friends and family, and make this world a better place. Trust me, that'll make you feel a lot more happier than your faith or religion ever did, because you'll actually be doing something real for the real world. And that is far more important than anything else you can do. Trust me, I speak from experience. Thanks once again for stopping by, and I'll catch you next time.